Hey there, welcome back to The Truth is Somewhere. We talk about conspiracy theories and other things in that vein. Megan, today what are we talking about?
Today we are going to talk about the Yuba County 5, which is described by a lot of people as the American Dyatlov Pass.
So something similar to what we talked about the other day.
Yeah, something sort of similar. So, full disclosure, I found out about this story from Reddit because I was looking at stuff for Dyatlov Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't particularly really feel like it's that similar to Dyatlov Pass, but a lot of people do. So anyway,
Okay.
It is a really good mystery and it is very interesting. I just don't know that it quite meets up to Dyatlov Pass for me.
Sure.
So, without further ado, on February 24th, 1978, Joe Shones was driving up a mountain road in the Plumas National Forest of Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
And he was scouting out the roads to make sure they were clear enough to take his family on an outing in the forest the following day.
Do you know whereabouts that is in Northern California? Because I might be semi-familiar with the area.
It's close to Yuba City.
Okay,
And,
yeah.
Marysville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've been through there before.
Right. So I definitely know what the area is like.
Yeah.
Pretty close to the Redwood Forest, I would imagine.
I think so.
Not super close, but yeah. As far as like... Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. Just getting a visual picture.
Sure. So it's February, and he wanted to take his family on an outing into the forest the next day, so he was looking at the roads because of snow.
Okay.
And his Volkswagen became stuck in the snowdrifts, and the exertion of trying to push his car out of the snowdrifts by himself gave him a heart attack.
Sure.
So, he's up on a mountain all by himself, stuck in the snow, having a heart attack.
That's
Poor guy.
horrible.
Yeah. So Joe sees two sets of headlights, one to a pickup and one to a smaller car, and he screamed for help in hopes of flagging them down, obviously. And then he claims to have seen a group of men and one woman and a baby, and all of them ignored him and continued walking.
Wait, they were walking or...
Yeah, they
so
got out of
drove
their
up,
vehicles.
They
They
got
drove
out of
up
their
in two different
Okay.
vehicles, got out of their vehicles, and ignored him and walked away.
Okay.
He then said that hours later, so he was like laying in his car,
Yeah.
like waiting for this to pass, for himself to feel better because he was stuck on this mountain. So hours later, he says he saw flashlights and once again screamed for help, and nobody came.
Did it say where the flashlights are coming? Like from... Okay.
Just that he saw flashlights.
Okay, it's dark
he was
now,
laying
obviously.
in the and like the way light reflects off of snow and stuff.
Yeah,
It's
I
hard
guess.
to say where it was coming from. Anyway.
Yes and no.
When Joe started to feel better, he decided to walk the 8 miles downhill to a lodge.
Okay, yeah, as you
And
do.
he made it.
That's good.
That's why
good
we
for
have
him.
this
He's
story.
a trooper.
He made it, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then on his trek, he passed a 1969 Mercury Montego, but there was no one in the car.
Interesting. What about the vehicles that were...
Well, so he thinks that the car the headlights he saw was the Mercury.
Okay.
But he has no idea where the truck went.
Okay, so... He saw... So how far away was... I guess you don't have the answer to this. You're not going to have the answer to this. I know the theme of my questions now.
Yeah, I won't have the answer to that.
I'm just trying to figure out, he saw the headlights. I was, like, picturing in my head they got pretty close, they stopped pretty closely, and then...
Well, he had to yell for them, so they couldn't have been that close.
Well, he's in his car.
But he got out of the car, I think, is what everything said, to yell for the people.
Okay.
Because he saw the headlights and was like, oh, people!
Okay.
And then
Well,
they just
I was
continued to
assuming he
walk.
was in the car.
Anyway.
Okay. So then they walked past him in the car. Or was he outside of the car?
I'm not sure. He's not even sure. Like, there gets to a point later where he was like, I don't know, I could have been delirious.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Like, from the very beginning, like, God, trust a delirious old man
who's
having
having a heart attack, yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, he made it to the lodge early in the morning on February 25th and didn't even think about mentioning the Mercury until word was released in newspapers that 5 men had gone missing in Northern California, and they were last seen driving a Mercury Montego.
Okay.
So obviously, like, he's not going to think about telling anybody that, because he's like, I'm having a heart attack and I've been stuck on a mountain all night.
Yeah.
Right? So it turns out that Joe Shones became the last person to ever see Ted Wire, Gary Mathias, Jack Madruga, Jackie Hewitt, and Bill Sterling alive.
Okay.
Up there on that mountain having a heart attack.
So here's the connection. It's a bunch of hikers on a mountain.
Yes.
Snowy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
All right. Well, no, I understand the connections to Dyatlov Pass. I just don't think it's quite as monumental.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
So the 5 men lived near or in Marysville and Yuba City, California, which is roughly 50 miles from the mountain on which Jack Madruga's Mercury was found. And all 5 of them had varying degrees of intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
So Madruga had never been diagnosed but was referred to as, quote, slow by the people in town.
Okay.
Or they had psychiatric issues and all of them lived with their families, who were vigilant about watching them. And no one in their communities understood how they ended up on the mountain, as unplanned road trips were really out of character for all 5 of them.
Oh, maybe they were...
That's not something they would have done.
Possessed by aliens.
Maybe they were possessed by aliens. I don't think that's how aliens work. I think you're mixing up demons and aliens.
I think that
You're obviously
the expert, so what do I know?
Earlier in the day of February 24th, Madruga picked up his 4 friends to take them to a basketball game at California State University in Chico.
Okay.
And all 5 of them were fans of and played basketball.
Yes.
And they had a game scheduled for the next day.
Okay.
And they were to play for the rehabilitation center that they hung out at. So it's strange that they wouldn't come back because they were planning on playing basketball the next day.
That is strange, unless they didn't want to.
Well, one of them was even like, he told his mom, don't let me oversleep tomorrow because I have this game.
Okay.
But then he never came home.
Okay.
So it is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Wyher was the oldest, and he was 32. And Hewitt was the youngest, and he was 24. So they ranged from 24 to 32. And their communities lovingly referred to them as, quote, the boys, because of their intellectual and psychiatric issues. So even though they're grown men, everybody just was calling them the boys. And everybody in town, knew them.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthias had been discharged from the army due to his schizophrenia, which he controlled with the use of medication. He did not take the medication with him to the basketball game because he expected to be home in time to take his next dose.
Okay.
So some of the stuff I read said something about him he was taking it faithfully, and so it's weird that he would have left his medication at home if he wasn't planning on coming back, but other stuff I read talked about how he only took it once a week, and that wasn't a day that he was going to have to take it anyway.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what's true or what's not there because there was so much conflicting information, and unfortunately, this is also dissimilar from Dyatlov Pass, because Dyatlov Pass, you can find a bunch of stuff about it, everybody talks about it, but this is very, quiet, and there's not a whole lot out there about it.
Dyatlov Pass is about a bunch of highly intelligent people, and this is about a bunch of potentially not highly intelligent people.
People who are referred to as slow, at least in those days, right? Yeah. So people with learning disabilities.
When was the date again?
1978.
1978, okay. Yeah.
So definitely not woke, as we say today, right?
As you say, I guess.
Yeah.
What is woke? What? Woke? What does that have to do with anything? Who's woke?
Because of the way that they referred to the voice. We wouldn't use the same language now that they, used in the papers and stuff.
Oh, so saying someone is slow means you're not woke?
Well, you don't say slow anymore. You say, they have a learning disability.
Okay, so when
Let's
you say...
have a social justice.
I thought that the word woke meant something different. That's it. So when you're up with the times, you're woke?
And when you're, focused on social justice and you understand not to say things like that.
Oh. I thought it was just being aware.
I mean, it is to a certain extent. It's being aware of how you could harm people with your words.
Okay.
Anyway.
Woke as fuck.
Woke
AF, sorry.
Woke AF. Okay, so we talked about his schizophrenia, and then the game they went to ended around 10 p.m., and the 5 men stopped at a Minute Market for junk food, but instead of continuing to drive south to home, they drove roughly 70 miles east of Chico.
Interesting.
And then on February 28th, authorities found the Mercury in the same spot that Shones had seen it on the night of February 24th.
Mm-hmm.
Officers noted that the car had enough fuel to continue, but it had gotten stuck in the snow.
Okay.
The 5 men should have been able to push the car out easily, but instead the keys and all 5 men seemed to have vanished. And the families of the 5 raised money to offer a $2,600 reward to anyone with information, and they contacted psychics, and they sat by the phones.
Oh, psychics. That'll do it for you.
Nothing happened.
So, I find it interesting that everyone talks about these guys being, maybe a little bit slow, but You had a guy that was in the military. Now, I know...
But no, he had schizophrenia.
He had schizophrenia. Okay, fine.
Varying degrees of
Sure.
Mental issues across the board, across the spectrum.
I get it.
Anyway, the Yuba County Undersheriff Jack Beecham, not sure, told reporters, quote, "This case is bizarre as hell."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this all happened in February. Now it's June of 1978, and a group of motorcyclists came upon an abandoned Forest Service trailer at a campground site.
Okay.
And they went into the trailer and found a body tucked into the bed, draped entirely in sheets, like completely covered in sheets.
Okay.
And when authorities removed the sheets, they found Wire, the oldest guy.
Yeah.
His shoes were missing and his feet were badly frostbitten.
Okay, so obviously they were up there.
Yeah.
No
Get
doubt
this,
about
though. The trailer was 19 miles from the abandoned Mercury.
Oh.
And there was like a snowstorm that night, and none of them were wearing coats, and they made it 19 miles.
Hey, determination,
in the dark,
you know?
in the snow.
It may not have been in one day, though. They probably huddled up whenever that snowstorm was, and then went the rest.
Sure, but to, like, not get hypothermia and die, that's, like, it's a little nutty.
One
Anyway,
of them's military.
Sure, one of them is military.
So...
And we'll get to that in a little bit. So then the next day, they found the bodies of Sterling and Madruga, 4.5 miles away from that trailer.
Okay.
And investigators believed that they had succumbed to the elements before they could find shelter, and Wire and the others continued on without them.
You know, there's a good chance they also hitchhiked.
On the top of a mountain where everybody was getting stuck?
There was already a road up there, right?
Sure.
People had big trucks in the 70s, too.
So a big thing that they were talking about was that there had been, like snowplow tractor marks in the snow next to that trailer, so maybe they were following the snowplow, looking for somebody.
But I'm trying to explain also a way that they made it 19 miles in that weather.
Sure.
Someone picked them up,
maybe.
put them in their truck.
I mean, that's not something that anybody's discussed, so you're creating your own conspiracy theories there.
Hey, look, you gotta, if you want to be a conspiracy if you want to be a conspiracy theory channel, you gotta make your own, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But no, I think that it's a possibility that they got picked up and went up the road a little ways.
Well, but sure. So, but like 4.5 miles before the trailer, they found 2 bodies, and they think that those people died from the elements before they could get to the trailer.
Okay,
and then the rest of the party kept going.
Did they figure out who those 2 were?
Yeah, I told you. It was
I thought you said no.
Sterling
you told me
and Madruga.
Oh, okay. I definitely remember those within 4 miles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't bite me.
That is not me.
I am talking to my guinea pig. I told him not to bite me, not my husband. Anyway, so Madruga still had the keys to the car in his hand, which is, like, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then Hewitt's bones were found 2 days later, and even more heartbreaking, his father was the one to discover him. So his father discovered his backbone, and then surrounded by some other bones. And then an officer found the skull a few yards away, and the next day, the family dentist used that to ID the bones.
Well, maybe it's not so heartbreaking, because that's closure.
That's true. There is closure there, which is really, that's something that's very helpful.
Yeah, that's closure. Yeah. And yeah, it could have been someone else that found him, but he knows that he was the one that found them. Sure.
Do you know who never got closure?
Who?
Matthias's family.
Wow.
Military guy.
Yeah?
They never found him.
That's right, because he's still out there.
So they found his tennis shoes back in the trailer with Wire, and police assume he took Wire's leather shoes. And they think because Wire had larger feet, and Matthias's feet may have swelled due to frostbite, so he took the better shoes that were bigger. Yeah. Which makes sense. And they think Hewitt and Matthias may have left the trailer after the death of their friend. Mm-hmm. Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
Now it gets weird.
Now
we're going to get the weird stuff. A Washington Post article written by Cynthia Gorney in 1978 pointed out the fact that the car had no damage. So, quote from this article, "This heavy American car, with a low-hanging muffler and presumably with 5 full-grown men inside, had wound up on a stretch of tortuously bumpy mountain road, apparently in total darkness, without a gouge or dent or thick mud stain to show for it. The driver had either used astonishing care and precision, the investigators figured, or else he knew the road well enough to anticipate every rut."
So this is the car they were talking about that they walked past and was left there, right?
And it was Jack Madruga's car.
Yeah, so this is in the snow, though, right?
Yeah, it's in the snow.
I guess.
Stuck in the snow.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any scratches, dents, mud, nothing on it.
Okay.
Which is kind of weird.
How heavy is the snow? How long had it been snowing before? Like... I guess I just don't think it's that weird.
Okay.
Did it go through rain? Like, bumps and scratches, fine. I don't know anything about the road. Like,
sure.
How... It was a treacherous, bumpy road.
Yeah.
If you did it slow enough.
Sure.
As soon as they hit a rut, they gave up, it sounds like. They got stuck and gave up as soon as they did,
right.
So...
Madruga and Matthias were the only ones with licenses, and the families asserted that Madruga was the only one to ever drive that car, and his family claimed that he had hated camping in the cold and could not have known that road. There's just no way he knew that road well enough to navigate it without causing any damage to the car, is what people are trying to claim.
Sure.
This is the thing that really got to me, and you know how... Remember how I reacted to Into the Wild and I couldn't sleep for like 5 days? This is the same problem. Okay. So Wire was found emaciated. And police determined that he had been living in that trailer for 8 to 13 weeks. And they determined that based on his beard growth.
Yeah.
And the trailer was fully stocked with canned and dried foods, but only 12 of the cans had been opened.
Interesting.
And there was also a propane tank that would have provided heat, but he never turned it on. And there were several books that would have made excellent kindling for fires, left untouched.
Huh.
And no one covered the broken window that they had smashed to get inside the trailer. And one of the inconsistencies that the police were seeing was thinking that Hewitt and Matthias left the trailer after Wire died, but they had only found Hewitt's bones. So we can't know if he was emaciated or looking like they had lived for their 8 to 13 weeks like Wire had.
Okay.
So, like, to me, that's a big gap of, like, oh, we think this guy lived for 8 to 13 weeks and died of starvation for absolutely no reason because he was surrounded by food.
And he was, yeah.
And then we think these two guys left the trailer after their friend died. But there's no way to know if they were emaciated or not because all they found were bones. Or, like, if they had lived longer. So I don't know how they're determining that those people left after Wire had died.
Yeah, I don't know how they would either. Because... Yeah, that's tough. I don't know how they're making that decision. I don't know how they're making that call.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I'm sure there must be some logic to it, and I don't know because I can't read the police reports. And like I said, there's very little information about this, actually.
Okay.
It's, like, very limited. And I was talking earlier about how they didn't have coats, and, like, Wire's mother made a specific comment that she had told him to grab a coat before he left for the game, and he had told her that he didn't need one because he was going to be inside most of the time.
Sure.
And so he managed to walk the almost 20 miles through the snow in the dark wearing a velour shirt and lightweight pants and no coat.
Yeah, do you think that maybe it was just a snap decision? It sounds like it was more likely...
Right, well, that's the thing. Is like, nobody really knows why they went that way.
Sounds like it was more likely unplanned than it was.
Yeah.
So he never... So this was all
unplanned.
before that game, right?
This was after the game.
Okay, so
they left the game and went the wrong way.
Yeah, at some point you turn around.
Right.
If you're lost.
Yeah. So inside the trailer, they found Wire's gold necklace, a ring engraved with his name, and his wallet still full of cash. And they also found a gold Waltham watch, which was missing its crystal, and it didn't belong to any of the 5 men. Random watch. Broken watch.
It could have been something they just found, picked up. So, are there any, like, myths or legends about what's up there? Like, in Oregon, we've got D.B. Cooper, you know, and people go into the mountains looking for D.B. Cooper and his lost wealth.
That's what's interesting is there was nothing like, oh, it's a Yeti, oh, it's a Sasquatch, like, none of that, like, that came with Dyatlov Pass. So, and I'm getting there. I'm getting to what people think happened. Okay. I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm still just explaining, I'm laying the facts, laying the foundation for you.
Lay them thick.
So, like, investigators to this day still don't know why they turned east in the first place. Like, east was not the way they were supposed to be going to go home. One theory suggested that Matthias had friends who lived east, and perhaps he had wanted to stop and say hello. Okay. And Madruga took a wrong turn on the way there. But a lot of people point out that you don't make a wrong turn and keep driving an hour and 45 minutes out of your way up a mountain in the snow.
No, you don't.
Like, I mean, you don't do that. Unless, of course, like, they all have learning disabilities or are, they have, like, schizophrenia. Yeah. So.
Maybe. And it also depends, like, I know I've definitely driven down the road and made the wrong turn and had, like, like, I don't really know where I'm going. I just know it's in that direction, and I'm looking for cues and waiting, maybe hoping someone else will tell me that I make the right turn, you know? And then, you know, next thing we know, we're 45 minutes down the road, and people go, I don't recognize this. I've been there.
Right.
I've gone down the road and been like, guys, are we in the right place? And everyone's like, no, we missed a turn way forever ago.
Yeah, sure.
So I've been there. I think that
It's
them in the situation that they're in, yeah, it's absolutely possible that they could have done that if they didn't really know where they were going in the first place.
Okay. So then investigators could also never determine why they left the vehicle and supposedly hiked 19 miles in the snow to a trailer. Because they were 5 able-bodied men and they should have been able to push that car out easily.
Yeah, that I don't have an explanation for.
And they also can't explain why they ignored Joe Shones when he called for help. Why'd you do that? Why'd you ignore that poor man?
Yeah, well, I mean, I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Whoop.
All right. So now on to the theories. Now we're there.
We're there. Okay.
And I have to give a big shout out to the Unresolved Mysteries Reddit community for a lot of these theories because they are just chock full of them. Like, the most information you can find on this is in that community on Reddit.
Okay.
So one of the theories is that the men were carjacked and or kidnapped. And this could explain the woman Shones claimed he saw and the pickup headlights he saw as well. Shones claims to have seen a woman with a baby, right? And he admits that in his state of intense pain from the heart attack he was having, he may have deliriously imagined some of the things that he thought he saw. However, say he did actually see a woman with a baby.
Yeah.
That's, like, legitimately one of the oldest tricks in the book. A woman on the side of the road waving people down for help and claiming her baby is choking or something along that lines, and then her and or her accomplices overpower the Good Samaritans that pulled over to help.
Yeah.
So some people on Reddit made the uncomfortable connection to the fact that humans are horrible, and maybe some assholes took the guys because they were intellectually disabled.
Absolutely right. That sounds like something that could possibly happen. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I have a little sad face emoji next to that.
I believe it. People are monsters.
Sad. And then other people think maybe someone spotted them at the Minute Market and decided to rob them. But skeptics of this theory point to the fact that these 5 men were very able-bodied, and 2 of them had military training.
Yeah.
And it would have been very difficult to overpower them, and they also know that Wyer's wallet was found in the trailer still full of cash. So probably not a robbery. Another theory involving Matthias's medication and schizophrenia. Reddit user Razberyllium notes that in the late 70s, the medications Matthias would have been on to control his schizophrenia would have been hindrances to his ability to play basketball.
Okay.
So this user theorizes that Matthias stopped taking the medication in the lead up to the big game on Saturday and had a paranoid outburst while driving home from the college game in Chico and made Madruga turn in the wrong direction because he possibly thought someone was following them.
That would absolutely make sense.
And then they end up stuck on the mountain and they get out of the car to assess the situation, and then Shones starts yelling at them.
Okay.
So here they are on this desolate mountain road, and their friend has been telling them someone is following them, and now someone's yelling at them.
Sure.
Matthias freaks out, the rest of them think maybe he's actually right, and then they run.
Okay.
And the rest can be chalked up to the varying degrees of intellectual disability and the effects of hypothermia.
Okay. 19 miles, though.
19 miles, though.
I still think even in that situation, hitchhiking is possible.
Sure.
Sure.
I don't think it's hitchhiking. I'm sorry, I just disagree with you.
How do you think they made it 19 miles?
I don't know how they made it 19 miles. They hoofed it hard, that's all. But maybe there was a truck, and maybe somebody did kidnap them, and the truck went all the way to the trailer. Yeah. I don't know.
Special form of hitchhiking.
Special form of hitchhiking. Kidnapping. Kidnapping is a special form of hitchhiking. In case you didn't know.
Kid hiking.
So anyway, we're coming to the end here. Okay. We're in the home stretch.
Home stretch.
Home stretch.
Kind of a short episode.
Well, home stretch.
Can't make them all 45-minute humdingers, right?
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I really didn't feel like this one was quite as big or as interesting as Dyatlov Pass. There's no aliens.
That we know
There's
of.
There's no ghosts.
There's always ghosts and aliens.
There's no radiation or military bombs going off.
There is.
Well, okay, there was nothing like that in any of the things I researched.
That's because the government did a great job covering it up.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Anyway. I'm going to get to that a little bit.
Let's do it.
The case has been gaining traction recently in a blog post written by Megan on the Charlie Project. Oh, I have to pause for a moment to tell you guys that while I was doing this research, I went to the homepage of the Charlie Project blog, and it's a girl named Megan who writes a lot of this stuff, and Megan is spelled differently than my name, and it's spelled Meaghan. I suppose it could be Megan then. Anyway, but she wrote about somebody named Corey that was a male, Kori, which is spelled like Corey's name, and I was like, Illuminati confirmed on this page.
Obviously.
Something was telling me I was supposed to be researching this. Anyway, moving on. Megan's writing about this case on the Charlie Project, mostly about the fact that Matthias is missing and no one has ever found him, and where the fuck did he go? Because that's something that I kind of forgot about through the whole story of, like, why did they go up on that mountain to begin with? They never found one of the guys. The one with military training. The one who potentially could have had survival training. Where'd he go?
He killed them all. He ate them.
Well, that's the thing, is that, like, one person definitely had to have been alive to drape the sheet over...
Yeah, of course.
Over Weiher, right?
Yeah.
And then they found Matthias's shoes, and then Weiher's shoes were missing, right? So, obviously, Matthias had to have taken those shoes. That just seems like the only answer, right?
That makes sense.
So, he was alive at the end. Who knows if the other ones were? We don't know. But he was alive, so where'd he go?
It's a big forest.
He's a Sasquatch. He became Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, that wasn't what I was going at when I said it's a big forest. I mean, what I meant to say was more along the lines of, they're lucky they found the things they did.
In 1970s, though, they never, ever found him?
Well, I mean, by now, his body could be...
Completely decomposed.
Right. Well, not the bones, but imagine now, maybe he was under a tree.
Yeah.
And fall hit, and then he was covered in leaves, and then he was covered in more leaves the next fall, and then before we know it, he's 6 feet deep just from natural occurring erosion and change of the mountain.
I like the idea that he turned into a Sasquatch a whole lot better.
I mean... Maybe
he's a tree spirit.
I think he killed him and ate him and was like, I can never go back.
You think?
Yeah.
You think it was part of, like, some sort of psychological break?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Anyway, I still have one more thing to tell you.
I mean, okay, sure.
So I'm reading this blog post, and I'm reading through the comments, because I find all sorts of interesting thing in comments on all of the things.
Yes.
And there's a user who claims to be married to Jack Hewitt's brother.
Mm-hmm.
And she claims that there's a lot of evidence that the police have covered up, government cover-ups.
Of course.
And that people who were willing to come forward with information have turned up dead. I know. And supposedly there were baby blankets in the car, which is information that the police department covered up, and it connects back to Joe Shones' assertion that he saw a woman with a baby on the mountain that night. Mm-hmm. And she also points to the fact that the mystery never appeared on the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, because they couldn't get all 5 families to agree to it. And she points to the idea that the families were afraid of something, and the families have talked about a town bully for years, claiming that the boys had essentially been forced up the mountain by this town bully. And there was a man who died from some kind of poisoning, who had wanted to come forward with information regarding the place, and his death was ruled a suicide. And none of this is corroborated.
None of
It's just like random comments on this blog post by a woman who claims to be part of the family.
Yeah.
She left some contact information, like Facebook contact information in the comments, and I did try really hard to reach out to her. I found her on Facebook. I messaged her. I was like, hey, look, we're doing a podcast on this. I'd really love your take on it. I'd like to know more about these, like, little breadcrumbs that you're leaving for people who, and no one's ever heard any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely uncorroborated. I couldn't find it anywhere else.
Uh-huh.
And I got no response.
No response? That's too bad. Yeah.
It's really too bad. I really wanted to bring that to you guys, and it would have been very interesting, but unfortunately, all I have is that little bit from the comment section.
Yeah, it sounds...
Charlie Project.
It sounds like she's probably not a real person, and she just made some stuff up.
Well, no, I think she's absolutely a real person, but I think it's, like, the desperate clingings of a family.
You're probably right. Yeah, you're
absolutely,
probably right.
Like, her Facebook was very well fleshed out. It didn't look like a fake profile or anything like that. I
She's
think
probably
it's
done
just that
dealing with it too. Why she didn't respond to you?
It's just that I think that the families are still desperate to find out what actually happened. Does that make sense? Like, because nobody understands why they went in the wrong direction, why they ended up on this mountain. It was really out of character. One of them's never been found. And so the families are very desperate to know.
You know, I think if it is a cover-up, I think it's nothing huge. No Russia covering up,
right.
You know,
bombs
or lights in the sky,
right.
But it's something more along the lines of maybe the bully was a police officer's son.
Maybe he was. That's true. That's a good thought.
Something along those lines, and he wants to protect his son.
Yeah. Well, it's like, you know, we were talking last week about the guy that does the research on the past lives, and he's like, the answer is most often the, like, simplest one, the one that comes together the easiest, and, like, in reading through the Reddit ones, my favorite theory, and the one that I think seems to be the simplest answer, was the guy who said that Matthias went off his medication.
Yeah.
And was like, somebody's following us, go that way, and then they got stuck on this mountain, and Joe Shones is up there yelling for help, and they're like, holy shit, somebody followed us!
I mean, that makes sense.
And then who knows what happened if he's having a break already, and he's out in the middle of the forest with these guys, who knows what happened from there.
Yeah. Well, the truth is somewhere, right?
The truth is somewhere, but it is most certainly not here.
No, we don't have it. Absolutely.
We don't have it. We try, but we do not have it in this particular week. Alright, so if you'd like to support us, you've got a couple ways you can do that. You can go to iTunes and leave us a review, especially if you like what you're doing. If you don't like what you're doing, I think we'd rather hear from you personally.
You don't like what we're doing?
Yeah, if you don't like what we're doing,
you'd be saying you don't like what
please don't leave an iTunes review telling us you don't like what we're doing. Because it's only really helpful if it's you guys being like, yeah, I like it, so we show up more. iTunes algorithms and all.
I mean, that seems kind of selfish, but put whatever you think we are, truthfully. But we'd really like it if you gave us the great stuff.
And if you have a problem, I don't know, email us so we can fix it. And you can email us at thetruthissomewherepodcast@gmail.com. And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at TTIS Podcast. You can also support us on Patreon, also TTIS Podcast, and you can get really cool merch. Go look at it. thetruthissomewhere.threadless.com. And you can also see our show notes and the pictures and all of the intriguing stuff at thetruthissomewhere.com. And I think I covered all of the multitude of things that we run.
Find us on YouTube.
Oh yeah, YouTube.
At The Truth Is Somewhere.
Yeah, I forgot about YouTube.
So, there's one.
Yeah, I missed one.
Find us on that. Yeah, it's the podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, there's no video or anything, but if you prefer YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can pull it up on your TV and listen while you do housework or something.
Yeah, subscribe, thumbs up, comments in the doobly-doo. You know how it works.
Doobly-doo.
Yeah, that's what you say.
Doobly-doobly-doobly-doop-doop.
Yeah, and you point
down below.
Yeah, because that's
how YouTube works.
There. Anyways, yeah. That's that. I think we've beaten this dead horse today.
I think so. We're so sorry.
I don't know what we're sorry for.
I'm sorry.
For
wasting your precious time.
Oh, shh, don't tell people. Don't let them know that we're just wasting their time.
I'm sorry. I'm not a waste of time. I am a delight.
Absolutely.